Welcome, everyone, to the Indie Reds podcast. I'm your host, Joe Dilling. After a great job hosting last week, we gave Brian the week off. So mostly he doesn't oust me as a host or I don't get impeached. But all right, with me tonight are Jim Dimitri and Zach Shorter. Tonight, the outline looks pretty simple. We're going to have extremely brief discussion on MK Dons. We're going to talk the Reds' trip to Bramall Lane, and then look at a couple of upcoming fixtures. But let's start this with beverage discussion. I'm still working to drop that 10 before vacation on Friday, so I'm chugging water for a week. After a weekend of gluttony. Also haven't been the greatest in my eating habits today either. Zach, what are you enjoying tonight?
Honestly, because I'm like Gramps over here, I actually am drinking a little bit of coffee.
Is it caffeinated or decaf?
Oh, it's caffeinated.
Okay, well, because if it was decaf, then you'd be Gramps. So now you're just being hipster Zach.
Okay, then I'll be hipster Zach.
Well,
I'll go style my hair backwards and all that fun stuff. Get my typewriter out.
Get that man bun ready, right?
That's right.
All right, Jim. No man bun on Jim, probably because he can't do it. Jim, what are you drinking tonight, Jim?
The days of me being able to do a man bun have expired about 20 years ago. So it's been a long time. But
me too, Jim.
It's the hairline started to recede in about the early 30s, and that was while she wrote. And I'm not the type to go full Trump and have the stupid comb over with the hair extensions. So anyway, enough talk about haircuts.
I was gonna say what they took from you, they plopped on my head, man.
there you go. There you go, Zach with a beautiful set of locks. Jim, let's get back to it. What are you drinking, man?
So I'm drinking. There's a brewery out of Ohio called Hoof Hearted. Say that really fast a couple of times, and you'll see what play on words they're trying at there.
Got it.
You got it. Yep. Anyway, they kind of have a juvenile sense of humor. But I'm drinking a hazy pale ale called "Thanks for Letting Us Play Tonight," which the label on the can has a picture of what looks like Rick James and his band. But
that's awesome.
So this brewery does, all those hazy beers and crazy kinds of crap, but they do a really good job of it. So this is a very, very tasty beer that I'm drinking.
With the 5 fingers, say it to the face. Slap.
Slap.
Yes.
I love some
I'm not gonna say I'm Rick James. It's just not.
I was gonna say not only that, but there's not a whole lot much more you could say beyond those 2 things without offending a whole lot of people.
They should have never given you money.
Yes, stuff like that.
I edited that, by the way.
Yes, you did. Well done.
All right, so let's jump right in. MK Dons chat. The Reds traveled to Milton Keynes last week, and if you've ever wondered what Milton Keynes is like, I've heard author John Green biasly describe it, but it's been a while since I heard him say it, and I've drank a lot. Basically, it kind of sounds like a area that there wasn't much there before, and they've just kind of made it build up everything and trying to make it the new in place. But he also is very biased because of the way that Wimbledon was pulled and they formed MK Dons. So anyway, I digress. The Reds have advanced for the time being, and I say for the time being because, in case you missed it, Pedro Charavella was considered potentially an illegal player as not meeting eligibility requirements, and the FA is currently reviewing it. So who knows? Maybe later this week we'll find out that we're actually out of the Carabao Cup, and MK Dons is going to play Arsenal instead. So we'll find out. But there's a lot of youth, like a lot of us expected. I listened to the match. And lots of chances. Zach, what'd you make of the match?
Sure. I'll be honest, I wasn't able to catch a lot of it, but I did get to see the last 30 to 45. I would say probably a good bit of the second half. I didn't see a whole lot that stood out to me is in the form of too much positive, and I'll tell you why. I had one mission going into it. I really wanted to see how well Brewster was going to play. I've been really excited about him. Really excited about seeing him play, getting some minutes, and was just a bit disappointed in not necessarily his play, but just his lack of touches and ability to really be able to see what he can do. But other than that, unfortunately, I can't comment a whole lot more than that. But it was good from what I saw to be able to see some of the youth that you typically wouldn't be able to see on a day-to-day basis. Be able to get some good experience in a great competition.
Yeah, and from everything that I heard while listening, it sounded like Harvey Elliott had a great day at the park. I mean, it could have been better if he had hit the post twice. Ox had a couple good chances when he came on. It was great seeing James Milner out there turning the legs, leading the team. So it is what it is. It was win in advance, get the kids some time. I think that's basically what Klopp wanted. Rest everybody else up, and then we'll see what happens. So
yeah.
Jim, anybody that you've heard about having a good match or impressive match?
Well, heard about is the operative phrase, because I had a full work day and was unable to either listen to or watch the match, but I did catch the highlights, and so this is a highlight based judgment, like many others.
The Cliff Notes version.
I was impressed with Harvey Elliott and his crazy man bun, with his attacking abilities, and he hit the crossbar twice, right? Not the post.
I thought, okay.
Yes. Oh, that first one though, where he basically just had a tap, and all he needed to do was make contact just to push it across the line, and it just went straight up into the post, and it didn't even come straight down; it went up and out.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, so my ability to contribute my opinions to this discussion of this match is nil.
Okay. But seriously, for those of you
discussion was brief.
For those of you that aren't in the U.S., it's really tough for us to make to really get a good grasp at some of these midweek games because they're not Premier League in the package that they're on. This was on ESPN Plus, which is a remind me, is it a $20 a month add-on and streaming only? I forget how much it is.
I think
it's $5.99.
I don't remember how much it costs.
Okay, so you're looking at $6.
Yeah, it's $5.99. Yeah,
$6,
or $60 a year or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But that's where they have a lot of soccer on there. I can't speak to the replays because I can't convince my wife to get it. Even though they're going to bundle it with Disney Plus, which by the way looks freaking awesome.
Yes, it does.
And that's from a 38-year-old man.
Hey, no shame.
But anyway, this is these games that are on ESPN Plus, and hell, even some of them with Bleacher Report, which is yet another fee to watch them. Watch the Reds, like when they play
Champions League.
League. This Champions League match. Sorry, playing Salzburg. Thank you. It's going to be one of those things. I'll probably have to end up listening to the live audio as I work. So some of us, yes, we have flexible schedules. We can make it out to the pub and watch the matches. A lot of us are stuck at work, and we're either listening to the audio, pretending to work, or hoping that we can catch a illegal feed. By the way, if anybody has a VPN that they have extra licenses to, please DM me. And
can't help you there. Shame cannot help you there. Yeah.
And anyway, so we kind of end up in situations like this. I'm sorry that kind of feels like a woe is me stuff, but it is what it is. So and that's pretty much the way it is for a lot of American soccer fans, not just Liverpool fans. All right, so moving on to Sheffield United, to a game that we could watch. The Mighty Reds traveled to Sheffield to face the red half of the city. The lineup was to be expected, and the Reds remained perfect in the league with 7 wins and a 5-point gap at the top. So we're going to start with Jim. He didn't have much to contribute the last time, so we're going to talk now. What did you really take from the match? I'm just looking at big picture stuff here. What kind of, and you know, whatever you saw that you want to chat about.
Well, I think the big picture thing to take from the match is that this is one of those matches, an away match, where you just get the job done. And that is precisely what happened. For the most part, it wasn't, I don't think, the most attractive match. Sheffield United packed it in for the most part and played the counter. And they actually did, I thought, quite well at that.
Yeah.
They had some chances. But it made things difficult for us, especially the front three. I did not think the front three played all that well. But Genie's goal, I think, to a certain extent, was a little fortuitous. I think you have to wonder whether Dean Henderson completely stops that ball if it hadn't been raining throughout most of the match. Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't.
So I use that as an example for my son as he was in the middle of playing 5 games this past weekend, and part of it, a goalkeeper, is one of the things that they've been teaching him is, you got to put your knee down behind and scoop and watch the ball into your hands. His legs are spread apart, and he doesn't watch the ball go into his hands. That was routine. He really should have just scooped that and then gone from there. But he didn't. Was nothing but a goalkeeping error and a mental lapse. I'm not going to say anything else than that, because I guarantee you he's done that a million times in other games and training, and he wishes he could get that back.
Well, in fairness to him, I do think that the strike that Genie got on the ball was actually a pretty good one. It made it a bit difficult to play because it was bouncing off the turf pretty close to where Henderson was off his line. So I don't want to say it was a super challenging ball to stop. And I think you're right, and that his fundamentals were not sound in that moment. But I do think Genie got a good shot off. Even though there was some luck involved in him being able to get that ball in.
Zach, anything else you took from the match? You were at Union Jack with Brian, and you were trying to start some inside jokes in the LFC Indy Facebook group. You don't need to share them. That's fine. But
some shithousery.
Yeah. So anything else that kind of drew your attention? I mean, Jim pretty much said it was kind of a dull match. We have those at times, but there's still some stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Klopp said it best. I'd rather win 8 matches 1-0 than win 1 match 8-0. And a little dig there, which is kind of funny, but whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But it was clever if it was.
It was. Come on, it's.
I know.
It was. It was
totally a dig.
It was a semi subtweet.
Exactly. And it was a bit frustrating to watch because you knew that you could expect more out of the players. I mean, Sheffield did a really good job of executing their plans. There were a few times where I was coming to Brian, I was saying, holy crap, look how compact they are. Mm-hmm. They were in what looked like a 5-3-2 and were so compact that, I mean, you could fit them all in just a small space, like a futsal court. I mean, they were just so compact, and they allowed us to get wide, but, fired in. They had so many people in the box, and they stayed organized, and they almost pulled out a draw.
But even with
that,
Zach, we still had chances. And
we definitely did.
I go back to Bobby being so unselfish. He should have pulled the trigger 2 times.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And Mo getting hit, creating his shots, and it just not falling for him.
That too.
So, all right. So go ahead. I mean, we had our chances, and we're not capitalizing.
And Yeah, we definitely did. There were, what was I going to say? There were a few times where Brian and I were talking about we wish Bobby would have gotten involved a little bit more. He is, as we've seen through the past and even this year, with some incredible assists with his footwork. He's very creative. He can get the ball moving in great places, get some key passes in very tight quarters. And it's not his fault. It's not something that he was, not trying to make his presence known. He was definitely getting himself involved. It's just, that's just the way it goes. Otherwise I thought, as you were saying, Joe, get that knee down. If he gets that knee down, that's probably a draw. And if it wasn't for Ravo, getting his ass back and getting was it like a heel or a toe of his back foot as he was sliding through to probably stop a very likely could have been a goal.
And yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, and that was the thing. And he not just coming back on his side, he came across the field for that.
Yeah,
too. That was one of the points. And people have been talking. Sheffield bombed that right side. I remember. I sent Jim and Brian a text and said, "Man, Trent's having a stinker. He's just getting caught."
Yes.
But the thing is that they worked it that way so that they were just bombing the right. And Joel Matip, it really limited Joel. It made him have to go in and play. But it was easier because they could do it because first of all, Joel's faster than I think a lot of us realize, but also he's maybe the second best defender in the world right now.
I was going to say,
behind Virgil van Dijk.
He obviously will make you look like just a world beater.
A lot of people are saying he's been playing better than Virgil. He is good, and we got him for free. And that's the thing that we keep going back to. And last year at this time, he was third choice center back.
Yeah, right.
But Trent kept getting caught out, but that was just their counter. And I don't know if I just saying Trent. Before I said that Trent had a bad game. He mishit some free kicks, but he's not going to score them like he did against Chelsea every single time. So I'm not critiquing him for that, I guess. But I don't think he had the best game, but I think a lot of it was set up to Sheffield's play style.
Yeah.
I want to throw out another quick topic for you guys to discuss. So we've seen Klopp do this before when Mo Salah is not quite clicking. Sometimes Klopp has not started Salah before. Salah's not been playing the greatest the past couple weeks. He might have gotten a goal in there. I'm going to probably look like a fool, but since the last international break, I don't know if he's been really playing that well. Do you think maybe it's time for Klopp to kind of just say, "Hey, we're going to give you a start off just so that you can kind of think about it"? I don't think the Leicester game is that. Let me just put it that way, because you don't want to go on an international break that way. But do you think maybe it's about time to start thinking we got to find something to poke Mo in the ass again and get him going? Jim, I'll let you start.
I don't think so. Because I don't think Klopp is that kind of manager, honestly.
But he's done it before, though. He
has done it before
in the first season with Salah, when he goes on and then just can't stop scoring.
But do you really think that that's the reason that Mo went on a tear? I'm not sure that it is. I think to a certain extent, this is something he just has to work through. It seems to me in the last several matches, since the last international break, that he is looking to shoot at the earliest opportunity, and not thinking, or maybe he is just thinking too much about what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
I think he might be overthinking things.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I really do. And, to a certain extent, being a forward is a mental exercise. It's like, being in a high pressure position in other sports. Sometimes when you're in a slump, it starts to get in your head, and then you start overthinking what you should be doing. And I think that is probably what's going on. I'm not sure that taking him off and taking him off in a game where maybe he would start is really the solution. As you said, particularly not against Leicester, because I think Leicester's going to be, even though we're going to be at home, I think that's going to be a pretty tough contest. And I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but so I don't want to get ahead of things. So I wouldn't yank him. I think he's going to work through this. I think he's going to get back in a groove, and it's all going to be good. To a certain extent, too, I think Mane's play this season has made Mo pouring in a bunch of goals to a bit unnecessary. It would be nice if he was booting them in left and right, but I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
I'm going to say no, just because of the fact that he hasn't been playing as well as maybe we've seen in the past, granted. Jim, I agree with you. He may be, and Joe as well, I think he very well may be overthinking things. It's very likely, when you become one of the best players in the world, that does at times, weigh heavily on one, I would think. So, there's that, but he can pull magic out of his hat at any time. He can turn nothing into something. And just to being on the field and being able to draw some defenders his way to be able to open other people, especially with Bobby there, and not to take away from what we're going to be talking about with Leicester, especially with that game, I do think he needs to be on there the full 90 unless you have a better option to have play that full 90 or even 60.
I mean, Shaq's looking for time, but he's also been injured, so
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, do you want to put Ox up there, or do you want to put Genie up there? I mean, it's I just don't think we have a good option at the moment. Origi, do you want to put Origi up there? I mean, you could do that, but I just think it just kind of throws off the whole dynamic of our front three, and we have to change our game plan.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. Well, I'm just putting it out there as a talking point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
We understand you're not, this is not an advocacy point for you, that you're not saying he definitely needs to come off.
Yeah, I'm not going to die on that hill.
I
definitely would die. People would kill me for saying that about Mo. How dare you talk about Mo Salah that way? All right. No offense, anybody. So, were you guys disappointed with anybody's performance in the match?
I think you already pointed out Trent. I was disappointed by Trent's performance. We were texting about this, and I mentioned, I think this season, his, and maybe the statistics would prove me wrong, but it seems, especially in the last couple of matches, that his passing accuracy, particularly his crossing, hasn't been as sharp as it usually is. There was a point in the game, I think it was early in the first half, where he tried to put in a cross and it sailed over the end line, kind of behind the far post, which is uncharacteristic. So, Joe, you mentioned him being caught out a couple of times, and that Sheffield was trying to exploit that on the counter, and I agree with that. So I'm not overly concerned about it, though. I think he's going to be fine, but I don't know what the statistics are on the number of minutes that our typical first 11 have played, but he has to be among the top 5, if not the top 3 players in the number of minutes played. So you have to wonder how much of a role fatigue might be playing in it too, even though, he got a break from the Carabao Cup match, right? He didn't play in that one.
No.
Yeah.
You're right. Jim, he's also, 20 years old.
Yes. Yeah, so he still has a lot of growing to do, too. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, people jump at that he's kind of a prodigy, but you're right.
I know. I'm almost calling hogwash on the.
On the
Actually,
fatigue thing?
he's almost 21
Really?
on the fatigue thing. I think he at 21 years old he can run all day, but that's just me. 3 days in a row. But that's me, because I know my 38-year-old ass can't, though.
Even he has his limits.
My 38-year-old ass can't run for 5 minutes.
On how much they want him to play.
No, true. I mean, that's why they wear those stats vests the whole time. They're in training, etc. So no, I get it, but I was kind of disappointed in Trent's performance. And man, I had a good one lined up. I was skipping around on there. So never mind.
Okay.
No, here we go. So I had it in that one. No, it's all right. So I'm probably on an island already, because I'm gonna be on a cruise next week. But I was kind of disappointed in Trent's performance. Guys, join Brian's favorite pastime that doesn't involve his wife Jen, and play Tell Me Why Joe Is Wrong.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't think you're wrong.
Man,
that's the lamest game show. Like, nope, we agree.
I know exactly, but it is. It's how many weeks do we have? We're in a row. Joe, here's where you're wrong.
Probably as long as Liverpool's win streak right now.
Oh, hey, there we go. Yes, exactly. Zach, anybody else that you're kind of ho hum on?
Honestly, no. As Jim was talking about Trent, I was kind of going through my head trying to think of who was on. Was there anything that really stuck out? Defensively, midfield, up front, and no, honestly, no one individually had a real poor performance. Trent did have a bad day, but it wasn't the worst day. But I just think that it was just choppy play, very hard to really get too many chances. A lot of 2 or 3 passes here, and then dispossessed and just going back and forth, basically doing the exact same thing. So, I mean, it's nothing individually.
We'll change gears and talking about impress, and this is what I'm going to take from both teams, and I'll get it started. I thought Henderson for Sheffield United had a pretty good game, other than his brain fart in routine goalkeeping, scooping the ball. I thought he had a good game. He had some good saves in there. And commanded the box pretty well, so I'll give him that. Jordan Green's lost brother, McBurney.
Ginger Green, McBurney.
McBurney. Seriously, look at some pictures of him, or watch back the game, and then there's our friend Jordan Green. No relation to John Green, but massive red beard. I think even like the eyes are kind of the same. Anyway, I thought he did well. He could have done better and maybe punished us, so grateful for that. I'm not going to give my man of the match a praise right now. I thought Adrian had a good game. I thought Virgil did what he needed to do. A good game from Virgil. Andy Robertson defensively was very well. The whole team was pretty ineffective offensively, so we can't really say that he had a great game there also. But it is what it is. So toss it around, guys. Anybody else that you want to talk about having a pretty good game and kind of impressed by anybody?
I think those are all good shots. Those are going to be people that I was going to focus on too. I thought Adrian, Virgil, Andy, and I thought Fabinho had a pretty good game too. I mean, he wasn't stellar in the attack, but I thought that he was solid in what he usually does in terms of getting things started. So, I was particularly impressed by Virgil in the first half. I mean, he was in the right place at the right time every time. He broke up a couple of attacks from Sheffield, and we've already mentioned Joel Matip. He was his good old dependable self. Joe, I don't think I was going to call you Joel. Joe, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Joel Matip is one of the best defenders in Europe right now, and in his own right, setting aside his partnership with Virgil van Dijk. So, what a great move for him, getting him on a free and having him blossom into the defender he is right now.
There we go, Zach. Tossing it to you.
Sure. Agree with everything you both have said. I'm going to go with Robbo because I do believe that it is. I do think that shot that he saved with his trailing foot probably got us 3 instead of just 1 point. I don't know how well Adrian saw that. And you know how you just have that feeling where it's like, oh crap, this is bad. This is really, really, really bad. Well, I had that feeling on that, and if I was like, oh crap, we're gonna be equal here in just about 2 seconds. And Ravo came all the way across the field and saved our asses again. So I'm gonna give him just for that the man of the match for me.
All right. So yeah, Zach jumped the gun a little bit. I do want to propose.
Oh, my bad.
No, it's all right. Premature. Anyway. So I do have something I just thought up. I think we need to kind of have a Fabinho card tracker. To see how he's doing on accumulation, but I pulled up my
like
phone.
A Lucas card tracker?
No, but it's how close are we to accumulating a game off for Fabinho? But he only has two. He only has 2 in the league so far, and Trent has 2. Good. Trent has 2 as well. So, maybe I'm thinking of other matches or whatever, but always it seems to be that Fabinho gets a yellow card every match. I don't know. Anyway, so Jim, I'll come to you, man. You're man of the match. Zach, give a shout out to Robbo. Just as a recap.
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say I'm going to be a lawyer and appoint 2 men of the match, one for the first half and one for the second half. So I would say Virgil for the first half, Robbo for the second half.
All right. I'm going to go with Joel Matip. He had a tough day because, like we said, he was getting bombed down hard on the right side and having to cover for Trent getting caught out a few times and all that. I thought Joel recovered very well. He made the right decisions in defense when he needed to. I thought he was probably right there. And it's weird. We win. we play against I guess now they're mid-table, but a newly promoted team, and we're talking about defenders being man of the match again. So it's just odd for us, but it is what it is. So that does it for our recap of Sheffield United, but there's a couple matches coming up in the next week before we hit international break. First up is Wednesday. We get to Liverpool. Again. I forgot where we're playing this match. This is a home match.
It's at Anfield.
Anfield. There we go.
It's at Anfield. It's against Jesse Marsh's.
Go ahead, Jim.
Red Bull Salzburg.
Salzburg. What are you expecting from this match, Zach?
I am hoping to see a little bit of rotation. I think that we should, especially playing at home, should win. Hopefully we'll have a much better performance than we did against Napoli. I think we will, just because you're not going to have too many poor performances with this Liverpool side under Klopp. So I'm going to say, just real quick synopsis, I'm going to say 2-0 win. Our defense is playing good. I do think that the intensity that Liverpool have, just being in the Premier League that we always have, I think that's always like a one-up on our opposition, having that tenacity that we usually bring into each match. But I think that's what we're going to do, 2-0 win.
What are you thinking, Jim?
Yeah, I think we'll I don't want to say we'll win easily, because I do think that this Salzburg team has some dangerous players. I caught bits and pieces of the match against Genk, and was doing a little digging about what's going on in the Austrian Bundesliga this season. And I think if there's any part of Salzburg's team that we need to be wary of, it's their attack, because their trio of forwards is pretty dangerous. They've got this Norwegian kid named Holland, Erling Holland. He's 19 years old. He's had a couple of call-ups for the senior team. And he's big, he's quick, he's a good finisher. He plays in the center. On the right side, they've got a South Korean national named Hwang Hee-chan. I think I'm saying that right. And he was dangerous in the match against Genk. But I think you need to be careful. We need to be careful about a couple of things. I don't want to oversell Salzburg, because first of all, they were playing against Genk, and Genk's like 6th or 7th in the Belgian league, so they're not particularly a strong side. But at the same time, I think we need to be careful that we take them seriously, and I'm sure Klopp will have our guys prepared well. But in the Austrian Bundesliga, Salzburg are just pouring in the goals. They've played 9 matches and they've scored 40 goals already. Yeah, wow. So they're averaging almost 4.5 goals a game, and they have lost no matches. They are 8-1-0 at this point. So they have a 5-point lead in the league. Now, again, I mean, that's the Austrian Bundesliga. They're not going to be playing against teams. Salzburg's not going to be playing against teams in that league that have the defensive capabilities that we have. But I don't think it's going to be an easy match. I think Zach's call of a 2-0 win is probably a pretty good one. Their defense does not seem all that great. So actually, I think that we might actually score more than 2. But I would say 2-0, 3-0 would be a good shout.
Yeah, I might even see 3-1. To be honest, I was thinking possibly a 2-goal win.
I do think they're capable of giving us some trouble with their attack.
Yeah.
All right. So, so you guys both kind of mentioned maybe doing some squad rotation. We have some guys off. Where do you think you rotate in and out?
That's a good question. I mean, if you're, midfield is obviously the first thought. But as far as who I'd rotate in, I don't know. I think I might consider giving Ox a start in this match, and seeing how he does. Maybe starting him instead of Henderson, going with Ox, Gini, and Fabinho in the midfield. That's the first switch that comes to mind. I wonder, what do you guys think about giving Gomez a trot out in this match?
Absolutely.
I do it right back. That was my thing. I think maybe give Trent a night off, just to kind of have a night off. We'll see. I know sorry, Zach, do you want to jump in before I take over?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go for it.
I'm thinking that we do rotate, and it's going to be the midfield. We kind of remember Henderson went off early. I think he got a shot. Was it through the shin guard? But anyway, he got
his ankle stepped on.
Yeah, early in the match. He had a great run across the field for a great saving tackle too, and that's when he got hurt. So I think they definitely give Henderson the game off. I'm not sure if we bring in Ox or if you bring in Milner. Especially with the display Milner put up against. I mean, granted, it was MK Dons, but I mean he was everywhere that they needed to be a great leader on the field. So I think that maybe you probably put Milner in instead of Henderson. And maybe, I don't know, Fabinho's been playing so well. Do you really want to take him off?
I would.
Do you take Fabinho off? Give him a break too?
I would not.
You would
No,
not.
I'd have
Oh,
him
sorry. I
play
thought you
this
said
match.
you would. Yeah.
No, I would not.
Yeah, exactly. I misheard you. So yeah, I don't think I would either. And if he goes to Brazil tired, I don't know where Brazil's playing on international break, but I think that's where we go. And I don't think we rotate up top either. Maybe I don't think you take Mo out. I really don't think you do the front three change. But I could see Klopp giving someone a night off, and having Origi start. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Origi start. As to where he starts, that's a good question, though.
And for who he starts for, yeah.
Yeah.
Zach, anything else you think in your crystal ball?
Yeah, I agree with Gomez. Given a night at right back, I think more than anything else, like you said, he's young. I don't think physically he needs a night off. Maybe mentally he needs one. Just could use that. Just kind of, clear out his head, refresh, reset, and go again. I could see Milner stepping in, could give Shab a night off. I agree with you, Joe. I think he should stay in. He has had a great run of matches. And after dropping the first one, it would be good to get 3 points at home, get back into a good position in our group. I also agree that I don't think you really want to rotate anybody up top. I do think that it would be good for them to have a good match if they're going up against a side like Salzburg, who doesn't have the greatest defense, is leaky at times, and hasn't seen the level of competition really in their league. Really, the only competition they've seen would be in the Champions League. Of Liverpool's caliber. Maybe help boost their confidence, and maybe if they do get one early, they get another one, and then they just run right for the rest of the match. Maybe if you are going to rotate. Even though Ox hasn't necessarily been the greatest choice, maybe if you're going to bring him in at midfield, I would have Origi. You could even put him off at the wing or have Ox start up there if you want. And I don't know, maybe have whoever you're taking off to put in either Ox or Origi, have them come on at the 60th. Even that's wishful thinking. We know that Klopp always likes to leave his subs till late, but that would be my ideal idea. If you're going to bring somebody in, bring them in, help them get into the rhythm and make a difference if you're going to bring them in.
Okay. Thank you guys. Moving on to Leicester City. It kind of has a feeling of a trap game. Guys looking forward to international break, hooking up with their international teammates, and then Manchester United when we come back. So it's just one of those things. Trap game possibility. We've got the barrage coming. Leicester's been pretty streaky, kind of hit or miss. They'll go out and they'll lose to Manchester United and then turn around and beat Tottenham, even though it was questionable, or put up 5 on Newcastle on the weekend. I think they were assisted by a shortage of Newcastle players, but Leicester sitting 6th in the table in the Europa League spots. So, Jim, you've had it a few times.
Joe, they're here's where you're wrong, Joe.
Oh,
they're
fifth. They're fifth.
They're third in the table.
Yeah.
Leicester's 3rd in the table?
Yeah,
yes,
dude.
they're on 14 points.
You know why? Because I looked at a picture that I took yesterday of Liverpool top of the league, and I don't think they had played yet.
Old info.
Here's where you're wrong,
Fake
Joe.
news.
And now the game that everybody loves to play.
Here's where Joe is wrong.
Here's where Joe's wrong. Leicester City sitting 3rd in the table with 14 points. Okay, sorry. So I don't know. Klopp doesn't line the guys up to play trap games. I mean, he sets them up to play no matter what. They're ready to go. But we've all kind of felt a little nervous about this match. The barrage. Jim, what are you thinking, man?
I think it hinges a lot on whether James Madison's going to be healthy to play. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he played this weekend, or did he? I don't know. This is what the magic of the internet is for. I can actually look to see whether he played.
I'm doing the same thing.
He did not play.
Yeah, but James, nope,
he was not even on the bench.
Nope.
So I don't know what the injury is. But I think, obviously a lot of people are high on him and his capabilities. So if the injury is not serious enough, this shows listeners what sterling research we do before this podcast.
And let's wing it.
I don't even know what James Madison's injury is or whether he'll be in shape to play. But that said, if he is available to play, I think it's going to be a super tough match. If he's not, I think it still will be a tough match. For me, it has a 1-0 or a 2-1 written all over it. We know how dangerous your favorite rat face boy Jamie Vardy.
Jamie Vardy.
But we'll see. I think it's going to be a tight match. I think it's going to be a 1-goal victory for us. That's my prediction.
All right, Zach, what are you thinking, man?
I don't have a whole lot different of an opinion than Jim on this one. I think it's going to be very close. They're a good team. Who would have thought that we would have been saying that they'd be 2 points off City after 7 matches? That's just kind of crazy to think about. They are playing well. They've had some good wins, some impressive performances. I'm hoping Madison is not healthy. That'll make help me rest my mind a little bit easier. But then again, whether he's fit or whether he's not, whether he's available or not, they'll be ready. Honestly, any game at this point, if they're not City, if you want to throw United and Chelsea and, in that conversation, Arsenal, they all are going to be one of those that could be looked as trap games. If there was going to be a trap game, I would have thought Sheffield would have been one.
Yeah, good point. Looking forward to the Champions League and coming off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be ready. And damn, if they don't get a result on Wednesday, they'll be heated, ready to go.
I think it's going to be lopsided, and I think it's going to be a Liverpool lopsided. Even if James Madison plays, there's always that possibility that Vardy's going to sneak one, but I have so much faith in Virgil van Dijk and Joel Matip. I don't see that happening. Granted, he also could get that odd one where he's about 10 yards outside of the 16-yard box and just chips a keeper on a weird ball like he did. That was at the King Power in his year of craziness. But let me read you their back line. This is why I say this. Chilwell. Oh my gosh, why are these so small? Soyunchi, I think. Soyunchi, Johnny Evans of Manchester United fame, and Ricardo Pereira. Sorry. That does not strike fear, and if our front three is clicking and you mix in there Jordan Henderson clicking with them as well, maybe Naby Keita, who we also forgot about to talk about with our against Salzburg, which I could definitely see happening. I think that there's goals in this team, goals against Leicester, even with Kasper Schmeichel back there in the back line. I think Liverpool, if everyone's clicking, regardless of if James Madison's playing, I think this is Liverpool's to take, as long as they're focused. And I think it could be 3-4-0.
I wouldn't mind that.
I won't mind it either.
You're getting cocky.
I'm getting cocky. I did not say that it would be. I want to point that out because I'd never bet my team. I'm saying it could be. The match is on Saturday at 10 a.m. I will be in a
Eastern.
car. I will be in a car on my way to Port Canaveral, Florida, for a wonderful cruise. So let's start wrapping it up, guys. That's all we have so far. Zach, you usually don't contribute too much, but let's come to you first with plugs and non-plugs.
Oh, man. Might as well get my usual Union Jack Pub plug out.
How great's that? How great's that brunch menu? The new brunch menu.
Oh my gosh! Let me talk about. I was going to say I actually had a plug for their chicken and waffles.
All
Holy
right.
crap, they're good. But I want to just say thanks to the ladies for opening up for us at 7 a.m. We had a decent showing for 7 a.m. You just never know, but we had, I think it was 7 or 8 show for the match, and then more came in and watched. And we actually had a Sheffield United supporter. So plug, non-plug. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that plug away from him. I got a non-plug for that guy. He said he was just a soccer fan that came in and not once admitted to being a Sheffield United fan, but had gear on with the Sheffield United badge, I think, or something like that Brian pointed out. And, didn't have, I don't know. I wouldn't say, the fortitude to say anything, but apparently he was slightly ashamed. I mean, it's like one of those things where you're being kind, like, hey, whoever you support, doesn't matter, come to Union Jack, even there are a lot of Liverpool fans there are many other supporters groups that call that place home.
Yeah.
There's no reason, Liverpool didn't, wasn't always a supporters group that attended matches there. We got our starts somehow. So, Sheffield United could get, their starts, there. And, that one guy could have, gotten it going, but, he didn't, he didn't cop to being a Sheffield United fan, which, that's to me not even being a fan if you can't
If you're
to
ashamed,
it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
love your team.
Yeah, own your team, regardless of who they are. Colts fan, we're luckless now, especially after this weekend. There is no luck whatsoever. We dropped all the passes and everything. That T.Y. Hilton GIF is all over the place of him just shaking his head like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, yeah.
But enough of that, of the ridiculous football. Let's talk about the real one. Plug for their brunch menu. It was absolutely fantastic. The Nutella waffles, holy cow. Get that if you love Nutella. But yeah, that's basically what I had. I wanted to give a shout out to the staff for opening up for us, and then the non-plug for the guy who couldn't support his team.
Jim, plugs, non-plugs.
I'm actually going to plug Sheffield United and the city of Sheffield. I kind of have a soft spot for the city of Sheffield for several reasons. First of all, my family. No, they're not from Sheffield. That's not what I was going to say. No, my family. Most of them, particularly on my dad's side, were all in the steel business, and Sheffield is England's traditional center of the steel industry. Before, of course, the steel industry went kaput in the Western Hemisphere, or went into decline. But Sheffield just has this kind of authentic vibe to it. And I have to give a lot of credit to the Sheffield United fans, and the team, because I really do think they set up really well and they executed their game plan excellently. I mean, they very well could have drawn against us. There was a chance they could have beat us. So I'll credit to them. I also love Sheffield because the last season of Doctor Who, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, was primarily set as a home base in Sheffield. So there's Sheffield love going on in Doctor Who as well.
Jim, do you want to hear a story here from Joe Dilling about Sheffield United real quick?
Please.
when I first started playing FIFA, we'll say 2003, 2004, it was a style way before foot, and you would take a team, you would be a coach, and you'd start with a team, and then you'd try to get them promoted and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I played a Sheffield United, and why? Because they had a young aspiring player in the midfield, even though they were a lower division team, named Phil Jagielka.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
Oh jeez. Oh my God.
I'm looking it up. And yeah, 2003 roster. I couldn't remember who the name at first, and I'm like, oh, was it really Jagielka? And I'm like, no, he was a defender. And I'm looking right here, midfielder. And I was like, oh yeah, it was a midfielder. It was Phil Jagielka.
Oh man.
But yeah, anyway, so I digress. Go ahead with your non-plug.
Oh, well, I just want to add one more thing about my Sheffield plug. Sheffield is the home of the once great, I don't know if you want to call them hair metal, hard rock band, Def Leppard is from Sheffield.
He's only got one arm.
From Def Leppard. Well, see, that is where Def Leppard started to go downhill. Is after the drummer lost his arm. They had released Pyromania, which was a great album. And then, and then they released Hysteria, which was just full of a bunch of pablum.
Let's see how many number one hits we can get.
Exactly. Well, and there's only when you're a drummer with one arm, there's only so much you can do with a foot pedal snare or a foot pedal snare drum. So it was, and then non-plugs. Boy, you're going to have to come back to me because I haven't thought about a non-plug yet. I gotta put my smart ass hat on. Smart ass smart
hyphen
ass hat, not ass hat. Okay, that's what you're saying. So
let's keep politics out of this. So we talking about ass hats. So I'm gonna try and start positive. I was really proud of my son Alex this past weekend. They played 4 games. They lost 3 of them. Real hard fought win on the 4th one, and he played really well. I was really proud with the way he played, and kept his head up, kept going through the whole thing. A lot of the goals weren't his fault. Some of them, when he was playing keeper, were his fault. and yeah, he was like, "Whatever, Dad. I know." Anyway, so I was proud of the way he played this weekend and kept his cool. But my non-plug actually goes to the freaking official in the 3rd game. And actually, this is Alex's 3rd game on Saturday. He just wasn't calling anything. So we're playing U9 soccer. Granted, it's U9 soccer, but sometimes the refs call offside, sometimes they don't. They lost by 1, and 2 of the other team's goals were offsides. And the parents parents that don't know soccer like we do are going nuts about the lack of offside calls. The other team's playing really dirty. I saw one kid try to trip a guy on the sideline. The ref just kind of let it go. Didn't even motion for advantage, neither here nor there. But what finally got it was, I don't know, they had a guy who put 2 hands on one of our players and threw him to the ground. That was the first call of the game.
Jeez.
So really disappointed. I don't like to blame officials for outcomes of matches, but this one was glaring. He was just there to get his $5 or whatever.
Mailed it in.
For that. Yeah, it was 6:30 game, so he was ready to go home. He'd probably been there all day. I get it, but still, these are 8-year-olds. You don't want them out there. You don't want them out there getting hurt. Kids could really seriously get hurt, and one of the kids almost did on the other team. But then I might also be confusing that. It might have been the Sunday morning match. But anyway, it's just, you don't want this kind of stuff to happen, and I'm kind of disappointed in the officials. Kind of disappointed in the coach for not. At least we couldn't hear him saying much of anything either. So must not be the FC Pride way. But Jim, anything? I'll come back to you on a non-plug.
So my non-plug is me because I don't have a non-plug.
Oh yeah, you do. It's called Impeach Joe from Podcast Host.
Impeach? No. I would never do that, Joe. You are the host extraordinaire, and the fact that you started this podcast is fantastic.
We started it, Jim.
No, Joe.
It was the three of us. Come on.
This is your initial brainchild. Don't try to be so self-deprecating.
I don't know about my brainchild. It was more of a, hey, I can do, gosh, if those two jerkos can do it, I definitely can.
Yes, I mean, the jerkos shall remain nameless.
But I think we might have slipped up and mentioned them before.
Yeah, I don't remember whether we have or not.
Anyway, all right.
No, I don't have a non-plug this week. I'm trying to stay positive in the face of all sorts of depressing and ridiculous news. So
yeah, exactly. All right.
Keep it on the hopeful tip.
There you go.
Just the tip. Okay, so thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank you all who download and listen every week or every episode. We really do appreciate you guys. I don't know if there's going to be a podcast next week doing a wrap up. I will be on vacation as previously mentioned. Brian has everything set up. It just is if time works with his schedule and everybody else's schedule to wrap up whatever happens this week. So please download it and listen. I can't wait to listen to it on my way after I get off the ship, and have a nice 2-day drive back from Port Canaveral. So if you want to get a hold of us, the contact information will be in the podcast notes, and that might be it. So they might not bring me back post-vacation, but for now, this is Joe Dilling signing off for episode 91 of the Indie Reds podcast. You'll never walk alone.